Virgo, this is your June 2025 soul story. If you have a sun rising or your moon is in the sign, it's your reading. It's Romy. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. We're going to open up for you this month with the energy of the Page of Wands. I think that your growth this month is coming from a super honest place, and you want to keep continuing to keep it real. But at the core of it, I think that, there is a vulnerability that you are leaning into in some aspect of your life. Perhaps there's something that you're still waiting to come together. Perhaps you're really stepping out and you're already in this period of taking a giant leap forward, and there's just that slight doubt or apprehension. Maybe life has shifted already and you're still just trying to stabilize and find that flow. Now, the nice thing about June is that there is a harmony that's coming in. We need to be prepared because mid-month there's going to be a little bit of a trigger point, but we can deal with that because on the whole this month is about helping you to really come into a better sense of knowing about why you are where you are and finding an acknowledgement, but also a real deep acceptance in that. Now, of course, we are activating that 10th house for you through the beginning of June in Gemini season. It's about making an impression. It's about considering how you want to be seen, and more importantly, Virgo, it's about why that matters. Now, Venus shifts into Taurus on the 5th, and I think that this is such a beautiful placement because it really allows for that nurturing, that nourishment, and even this energy of the Page of Wands. It's like you're stepping forth and there's such a heart-led intention for the way that you are showing up. And I'm really curious if you're already starting to feel the changes in how you want to be perceived, because there's been so much growth that's happened within you. And even if you're still trying to figure out how can I translate that, how do I express that in a way that demonstrates or sort of honors and respects the person that I now feel, there's something about this energy of June that's incredibly supportive and enabling you to do that. Mercury then shifting into Cancer on the 8th, and of course big news for us this month is that Jupiter is changing signs and into Cancer, where it is exalted. So there's an ease to that shift. We move from a thinking energy to a feeling energy. Of course, Cancer is a cardinal sign, so we want to take action. And we're going to feel motivated to do so. And for you, Virgo, it's really over this next year going to be highlighting your friendship, your groups, your communities. And I think that there's also a big reevaluation in terms of where you are set to invest and focus your time, energy and attention so that you can let that Jupiter-led expansion really work for you. In fact, I want to say to you, what is the life that you really want for yourself? You might have been contemplating that more deeply than ever the last few weeks. And there's something about June that you're maybe coming to a clear conclusion with regards to something. The Ace of Pentacles offers a helping hand. It's almost just like the minute that you make a decision or that you give yourself that permission to take the action or the step in the direction of something that's incredibly important and matters to you, then you're going to start to see how almost there's been a lot of things that have been waiting in the wings in order for that to come in. I think you have to take a chance in June and you have to make the move. You have to believe in the idea that things can be different. And if you're struggling with that notion, I think that's where the work comes from. So if you're still feeling heavy, what is it trying to show you? Because it's in that holding space, and let's be clear, right? This is also a month and a year, a time that we can really feel like we're being split down the middle. Yeah, so it's messy and certainly not always magical, but there is something about this wave that's coming in that is trying to help you to see the ways in which things can get better or be better for you. And you owe it to yourself to explore that. You owe it to yourself to open your mind and to be holding space without bringing all of the reasons why it can or won't work. Super aware of the language that you're using and the thoughts that are sort of bubbling up, as you know, perhaps one moment you're feeling quite excited about something and then all of a sudden you manage to talk yourself out of it, or something else happens and it just kind of rains on your parade a little bit. So just being mindful that as this flow energy comes through for you, you've got the energy of the sun, that's really lovely. You know, there is this energized feeling that is available for you to tap into. There's something about a more playful spirit as well that seems to come through for you. Now, life may have felt like it had taken on a very serious tone of late, and you know, maybe this is just somewhat of a temporary reprieve just to give you a little bit of space and oxygen to breathe. You know, you might have a lot going on that is requiring that you know, more dedicated, focused energy, but at the same time we have to provide the balance, and that inner child wants a little play. It wants to find ways to just let off some steam and just take a step back and actually just be present and live life. You know, sometimes when we are so focused on the work, in inverted commas, you know, we can forget that we're also here to just live and experience. And so I think that there's a little bit more of that energy that's wanting to kind of coax you maybe from the duty, the service, the work, the focus, the priorities that you've got, and just remind you that it's about finding balance in yourself. Now, we've got a full moon in Sagittarius coming in on the 11th of the month, and you know, there's something around this fire that is wanting to get you motivated and sort of I think really see the opportunity in something, but at the same time it also feels like, I want to say there's almost like an impact from others' choices or decisions. You may not necessarily have anticipated or expected that, so it might get you thinking along new lines in terms of like what's going on for you in and around that full moon energy, okay? And that's all right, but you know, if it comes in as a little bit of a surprise, then you know, there might be a moment where you're just going to have to kind of check in and be like, okay, you know, this is where we are. All right, I can, you know, I can handle this. I can take this energy, and you know, even in that, you're going to notice the shift in your emotional response from where it used to be to, you know, where you are now. Like I said, the growth is coming from such an honest place for you this month. And you know, you continue to keep it real. Knight of Pentacles, there's something really solid that you are building and that you are working towards and moving towards. You know, sometimes we have to just bring the consistency to, and I want to say to the mindset, the mentality, you know, the way that you are dealing with something or someone. And you may even feel that, you know, actually it's not been working, or I'm not seeing a shift in the dynamic or the exchange of this, but I feel like there's something about this energy of June that's real like a tipping point for you, when you're about to see how things can start to really transform. Now, you know, from this point onwards, the leaps that are going to start happening in your life, you know, are taking on greater and greater significance, and time just feels like it's becoming less and less of the you know, the way that it was perceived or interpreted up to this point, right? You know, the power of the presence takes on a whole new meaning for you, because it might almost be impossible to kind of think back to what happened yesterday. It's almost like there's a forgetfulness, you know, but it's really because the way that ascension and your growth is, you know, inviting you to respond to how the energy is moving, is to come into that deep state of presence. Now, I think you have an important conversation that needs to happen, and you know, there's something that maybe feels quite practical in regards to that as well, okay? So we've got a meeting or a conversation that is connected to practical matters and endeavours. Now, I want to say that mid-month we do have a little bit of a trigger energy, okay? So Mars in Leo and Uranus in Taurus, you know, really this dynamic between feeling secure versus wanting freedom, security versus freedom. And the same day we have Jupiter newly in Cancer and Saturn newly in Aries coming into this tense exchange as well. The way I want to explain this is it's almost like there's an old energy and a new energy. So Mars and Uranus are bringing something back to your attention that you've already dealt with. It's not a surprise to you. It's kind of like, okay, here I am again. You know, I hadn't dealt with this, or it wasn't resolved, and you know, it's come back around. But Jupiter and Saturn are bringing something new, something different that you're now having to consider or to think about. And it's almost like a little bit of a heads up to understand the influence that these planets in, you know, the new signs that they're now working in over the next year are going to be impacting you. So it's quite an important kind of critical point mid-month, even though it may feel a little bit uncomfortable, because these squares can create tension, okay? It doesn't, you know, have to be something that isn't, you know, able to be navigated and worked around, okay? What might be required, Two of Wands, is a new plan. Okay, so it may be that you had an idea, or you'd already had a commitment or a discussion with somebody, and then around that mid-month there's going to be some kind of obstacle that needs to be faced or needs to be dealt with. There may be a little bit of frustration that comes along with that, okay? And again, that's going to be an opportunity to check in with your emotional responses regarding something. The thing is that these moments are so imperative, right? It's what shapes us. And it's almost like you need to become the version of you that's gone through something like this in order to take on what happens next, or to be able to be confident enough to be able to step into your own light, to hold more light, okay? There's a choice that comes, and the choice is like, well, I can sink back and give up or let go, you know, or play it safe, or I can double down my efforts and go even bigger. And the thing is, as we move into Cancer season, and we're going to be lighting up that 11th house for you, remember that's also about your hopes and dreams, your aspirations. And there's this realization of how much you want it, how much you want something, whatever it is, okay? You know, it's the new house, it's the relationship, it's the new job, it's, you know, achieving a passion, it's a hobby you want to start, it's, you know, a new body that you want to feel good in, like whatever it is, like there's something that lands through that, you know, triggering energy mid-month, even if it's not necessarily connected to that dream. It's almost like the way that it makes you reevaluate, because you're going to find that you'll tap into this confidence and this bravery and this sort of asserted approach to deal with that, and then it's like, well, if I can do it over here, then why am I not using it over there? And you know, that is a really important realization that I see landing for you as a result of what comes through mid-month, okay? We're shifting then with Mars into your sign on the 17th, which will be helpful. Mars not necessarily loving being in the sign of Virgo. However, for you it can be a really super beneficial place as you figure out the details, and the way in which you are taking action is also serving you in terms of like how you want to shape it from the ground up with regards to something, you know. It just kind of feels like it's super helpful for you in that way. Now we have all of these beautiful warm bright colors, and then the Two Swords comes in with a little cloud and a little shadow here. So I'm going to say, you know, maybe there is just something that feels like it's raining on your parade a little bit, and it comes down again to this choice or decision that now needs to be made, okay? And perhaps it's going to trigger you in the sense of you know, affecting something that you yourself have felt a little bit insecure, or you have a little bit of a vulnerability over. That's why I'm saying, like, you know, the whole premise of this month is one of harmony and flow, but at the core, this vulnerability that you know exists within you. But if you let yourself feel it, it's going to be actually really beautiful, because you're going to find strength in that as well. You're going to give grace to yourself through it. The 18th, with Jupiter and Neptune having this kind of strange interlude, is also going to feel a little bit confusing for you, okay? So what's meant and not said, what's said and not meant, okay? Keep that phrase firmly in your mind in and around that time. But then of course we build up to solstice as the sun shifts into Cancer, and we've got some really beautiful energies coming in, you know, from the 20th and building right up to that new moon in Cancer. Solstice, such a special time to be able to realign and come into that sort of rhythm and flow. And I do think that you've got like this really sort of accepting energy in regards to something, And the minute that you do that, it's like a lot of tension dissolves, and all of a sudden you can you can see something for what it is, or see someone for what they are, and you feel like you don't have to force so much. And then, the important thing to recognize right now is that you don't actually have to do more. Where is that part of you that still feels like you need to prove something? All of your focus, energy, and attention this month feels like it's really coming back to the thought of, what is the life that I really want for myself, for my loved ones? And, what am I doing right now that is in support of that? Or that, I want to now make an adjustment in regards to, and this feels like it's an important month to do that as we kind of come into this midpoint of the year. The new moon in Cancer heralds an opportunity for you to embark on different pathways with regards to friendships, communities, groups, technology. So there's some kind of shifts and changes, or goals that you're setting for yourself, ideas that are forming for you. There may be some new people that are coming into your world around that time, and even if it's just like a quick exchange or a brief introduction, it's going to lead to a lot more in time. And I think anything that you feel in relation to those areas of your life, if there's an awareness that you would like a larger friendship group, or you're looking for more authentic connections, or if you're ready to sort of shift out of the group or the community you've been in and explore what else is out there, or if you're still seeking the people that feel like soul family to you, this new moon is really special. And I really want you to pay attention to what's coming through for you on all levels, because it feels to me that there's something that wants to be understood by you, that's going to help you in terms of action that you have to take in that direction, but also to be open to what is going to start to show up. And maybe that's also the realization of where some people are not necessarily as good for you as you thought that they were. And also those that you haven't been able to spend the time and energy with are really now stepping up to become much more of a kind of solid presence in your life moving forward, okay? This is a month for you that I feel brings a lot to light, brings a lot into sharp focus, but also allows you to find a little bit more flow and harmony in the way that, you can work with it than you have for some time, okay? It's, I hesitate to say it's a little bit of a less tumultuous feeling than what I've been tuning in for the last few weeks, but that doesn't make it necessarily any easier. Sometimes if we're going through that deep purge, that deep transition, that ascension, and the symptoms that come with that, we're not in an easy time, but at the same time you're feeling more yourself and you're remembering more than you ever have, and that's super sacred. If you are new to the channel, the last 3 cards we're going to look at in my extended reading, Virgo, you'll find the link in the comment and description box underneath. We'll also look at a personal and a relationship card, talk for about 25 minutes or so. I hope you'll join me. I'm just clarifying these cards to see the direction that we're going to be taking this reading for you. A couple of 7s coming in there. We've got the Lovers and the Queen of Cups, beautiful. 8 of Wands, Ace of Wands. You've got, you do have some, there's a real vibrance and radiance that's available to tap into. And, that's easy to say, isn't it? Because if you're going through it, or you're observing things that feel in real discord, it can be very challenging to sort of embrace that. And yet, that's the invitation here. Lots of 7s showing up. Now, please do take the time to check out romywiser.com if you want a personal reading with me. If you want to work with my sacred titles, which are going to be so supportive wherever you find yourself on your journey. So, my oracle cards, my journal, my book. You'll also find all my reports, my brand new astrocartography, the goddess reports. This month we've got Pallas Athena going retrograde in Aquarius on the 9th. We've also got Vesta finally going direct in Scorpio, which is going to be super helpful, particularly if you've been dealing with some challenges around envy or jealousy, and maybe having to keep things very close to you. There's just like an opening up, and obviously that happening right around that full moon in Sagittarius as well. It just kind of feels like there's a reveal that's set to just be so divinely timed for you, okay? So let's have a look at the oracle cards. And this is my deck. So yeah, please do take a moment to check out what's over on the website. All of my Sacred Soul Support, guided meditations, my membership. You have Karmic Cause and Effect, the Rainbow Dragon and the Wild Rose. We've got Sacral Energy, the Queen of Earth. We've got the Queen of Air, Eclipse Revelations, Destiny Speaks. Okay. And then we're going to pull a couple of oracle cards for you this month, Virgo. What do we have? Temple of the Sea. Feels very Atlantean, doesn't it? And then one more. We've got Boundaries, the Great Wall of China. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you. I do hope you'll join me on the extended. Have a great month ahead. Take care. Enjoy solstice energy. I'm